Greetings, System Failure listeners. Nate here, Brian over there, and today we're bringing back to you an old friend of the show. Our friend Chris, the captain, is here in studio to share his perspective on things. Gentlemen, how are we doing this fine Sunday morning?
I'm doing pretty good, Nate. How are you?
I'm good. That's what you always say to my when I serve the ball to your side of the tennis net. And and Chris, what is going on with you, sir?
I'm doing very well. How are you, gentlemen?
We are exhausted. We were down in Boston last night watching the Bruins lose a 7-round shootout. You know, we'd taken our dad down there.
7 rounds, wow.
Yeah. Now, I say we took our dad down there for his birthday. We made him pay for his ticket, though. Not sure if that qualifies as a Christmas present or a birthday present or not. His birthday just a couple days before Christmas, so, you know, we wanted to start a not family tradition, which we've done this in the past, of going down to the Bruins to see some good old-fashioned, you know, knuckles going into loosening molars and some goals being scored. You know, it's some nice hockey culture to commemorate the holiday season. So,
well, I think we would have kept going, but the tickets got to be crazily expensive when the Bruins were winning Stanley Cups.
Yeah, that's right. Brian is the ticket master, if you will, the man who goes on Ticketmaster on all of our behalf. Brian's got some experience on the Ticketmaster front from all those Pink Floyd concerts, so Brian knows how to get the best seats off the Vivid seat, what have you. You know, there's all kinds of websites that do that. But yes, the Bruins were good in going to the Stanley Cup Finals. We were too poor to afford to go to the games, but now that the Bruins are a little more fallen back to earth, why the Bruins are back on the menu.
We're striking while the iron's hot.
Yes, indeed.
There's nothing better than live hockey, playoff hockey.
Well, I got back from the game last night and went to my office chair and proceeded to agonize over this week's Substack essay, system failure essay, until 3 o'clock in the morning, which is my publication deadline. Finally sent it out at 3:01 a.m.
Well, did you get some late night inspiration? All right, I think there is something about doing work at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's exactly what happened. I was in a slightly different frame of mind owing to a spot of exhaustion, and so I saw my essay in a slightly different light. And I saw its flaws, you know, thrown into sharp relief and had to correct them. Couldn't let it stand. So I'm running about 3.5, 4 hours of sleep here. So I'm a little bit punchy. I feel like my vehicle is all over the road, you know, not necessarily inside the painted lines. But that should make for an entertaining podcast, so I think that'll be good.
Wow. Well, I went to the BK Lounge.
The BK Lounge. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Now, we call it the BK Lounge because of Dane Cook's old 2004 routine about visiting the BK Lounge, you know, where he used to tell girls he...
Fuck shoes.
Yeah, he used to. He didn't want to explain to the ladies that he worked at the Burger King. Yeah, so he would, you know, change it to the BK Lounge to give them throw them off the scent. Yeah, so that was a fun. We still call it the BK Lounge. And well, Brian, we're gonna have to talk about digestive health in the second half of the podcast. So, how did you feel?
I think I have Crohn's disease now, so it's hard times.
Welcome to the club, bud.
Oh, man. Well, I just have to give credit to our dear friend Robbie the Fire Bernstein, who had the greatest joke of 2024 when he's a stand-up comedian. Brian and I are a little bit of a fan of his. We like to go around and see his comedy stylings. And the best joke of 2024 was that no one can trust a fart anymore because all the food is poisoned. You'll blast your undies without even realizing what's going on. So we all have to. So your farts are untrustworthy. I thought that was hilarious.
I was slapping the bass a bit and watching James Lee on YouTube, and I don't know. Slapping the bass late at night is better than doing it during the regular hours. Wait, so anyway, I'm simpatico with you in getting the late night inspiration.
So you were, but hang on. You live, obviously, we're here in your studio/apartment, Brian, but you live in an apartment tower here in downtown Portland. Your neighbors don't mind if you play the bass at 2:30 a.m.?
I don't think it's very loud if it's not plugged in, you know.
Okay, I see. So you didn't crank the amp?
No.
All right.
No,
well, that seems minimally considerate of your poor neighbors. That's
maybe I'll do that next time.
And is this the James Lee? Did he have a Breaking Points that dropped this weekend?
Well, he's got fired from Breaking Points.
He got fired? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I think his reporting... I can't remember the exact issue he got reported about. I think it was something about Candace Owens, though, in the whole Erika Kirk, I think it's something to do with that. But man, I can't remember the exact thing.
Wow, I had no idea. This is hitting my brain like a sledgehammer.
What?
Well, James, I did not know this. James Lee just didn't appear on Breaking Points anymore. So Breaking Points, obviously, is the YouTube news program, which I regard to be the best out there. We're going to have to talk about this during the pod today, too, but it is impossible to find a good place to get your news. I don't really trust anyone besides Breaking Points. Anyway, it's hosted by Crystal Ball. Her name is actually Crystal Ball. She ran for
That's ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, she ran for a state representative seat in Virginia in like 2010 or something like that. And her co-host Sagar and Jetty, these guys are like real deal journalists. They used to host a show on YouTube called The Hill, called Rising, which was sponsored by The Hill, which is a hardcore Republican news news establishment. And they ran this show on The Hill, and they rose to prominence during the 2020 presidential election because they actually interviewed presidential candidate Andrew Yang and took him seriously. Whereas MSNBC will, because Yang is of Asian descent, they would put a different Asian man's picture instead of Andrew Yang's. They would leave him off the list of top polls.
Yeah.
They would do everything they can to discredit the guy who was just suggesting that a universal basic income might be the way out of our current capitalist predicament. Well, anyway, Crystal and Sagar gave him an honest interview. And that got a lot of people, that blew up the Rising show because no mainstream media would do it.
Okay, so James Lee got fired, for interviewing Elijah Schaefer, who was saying stuff about Kash Patel's girlfriend, who, has him flying around the country in the government plane tour.
So he interviewed a person who said something not on Breaking Points about Kash Patel's girlfriend?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll have to dig into that offline. That's interesting. But so it's not related to the Charlie Kirk thing.
I guess they felt there were legal risks in airing it.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Well, okay. So, all right. So you were here last night watching James Lee's own YouTube channel and not his apparently discontinued Breaking Points series, which came out every Saturday or Sunday or every other Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, pour one out for poor James Lee. It's got to be hard times to be fired by Crystal and Sagar. They're such nice people. It's got to be a rough session.
I mean, the other thing he did is he did Jimmy Dore's show, where Jimmy wasn't there, so he was hosting the show. And so I don't know if that's it seems hard to imagine that would be too real for Breaking Points.
Yeah, I would think that, obviously comedian Jimmy Dore, he has a show that he would like to be the replacement for Bill Maher's Friday Night, Real Time with Bill Maher.
Yeah.
He kind of does a YouTube version of it, and it doesn't censor the news, It does, so I think it's better. But, all right, well, anyway, so we are here. We're here today. The captain is visiting us here in Portland. We're about to watch us some Patriots action later tonight. We had our early game stolen from us. It was right there in our hands at 1 o'clock, and NBC snatched it away.
It's the worst.
And rescheduled the game for 8:20 and flexed it to the late window.
Ugh.
The late window, which is
Past my bedtime.
Well, yeah. Obviously, we're in our 40s now, and the fourth quarter of the late window is not the promising proposition it once was. You're right about that.
No.
And then the other curse, of course, is that the nationally televised broadcasts have extra TV timeouts. They're chock full of extra commercials, so we can hear from the good people that make Sky Rizzy and other rectum medications. About all the side effects that their latest innovation has. So, yeah, it's going to be a heaping helping of ads tonight, boys. But it's really cool to be hanging out with both of y'all. I'm looking forward to a really fun Sunday leading up to tonight's Patriots matchup. Hopefully they fare better than our poor Bruins taking an L in the shootout last night in 7 rounds, Brian.
I feel like we need to come up with the system failure, rectal ointment or something, just like a general rectal tonic that is a general cure-all for all your rectal needs.
I hope it comes with a long list of horrific side effects like suicidal ideation, depression, anal leakage.
Well, I think we'd try to make something all natural, maybe with beeswax or something, this would not cause suicidal ideation.
Might not actually do any healing either, but it could make us a pretty penny.
I guess ideally one that did some healing. Anyway, there's obviously a need for a quality anal balm that just is the market's not providing right now.
Well, I mean, I was going to wait to talk about the poison food supply for the second half, but this segue commands our immediate attention, gentlemen. I'm sure you'll agree. And so I just had we've already said it. With football season comes just a nonstop diet of commercials from big pharma advertising medications for ulcerative colitis. They always have some. They have some person who is supposed to be representative of someone with rectum issues. Maybe like a friendly-looking, heavy-set, black man in his 40s, and you're like, oh, he seems like a nice guy, and I feel bad that his butt is broken. But then he takes Sky Rizzy, and now he's at a barbecue with his family. They're laughing. He's taking pictures of his daughter at a wedding, and he hasn't blasted his undies or anything, so that's always good. But it's just so telling that that like everyone. So I deliver packages for Walmart. It's my little side gig. I work full time. I do the Substacks. I also like to just deliver a few packages. Honestly, I work from home and I do the Substack from home, and it's really good to get out of the house, drive around, fire a podcast or two. I really find it to be quite pleasing, but words cannot describe how disturbed I am by the sheer volume of adult diapers that I'm dropping off at people's houses. It is wild. It's a lot of groceries and a lot of adult diapers, like the never-ending buffet of ridiculous ass commercials on the NFL. The proliferation of adult diapers strikes me as a warning sign that the food supply is horrifically poisoned. It's really quite an experience. We should count them up and find out what proportion of NFL ads tonight are for your butt.
Well, how many packages of adult diapers do you deliver each week, do you think? Is it like 1 or 2 or like 7 or 8 or?
Well, the people that get the adult diapers generally get 3 to 4 packages. So that heavily skews the average. I would say that it's like a mix, like the people that I deliver packages to are a mix of young families and like the elderly and sort of disabled and homebound.
Yeah.
And on the elderly, disabled, and homebound front, the diapers are ubiquitous. So I guess I will admit that it seems like the young families are ordering regular diapers and not adult diapers, so, like for kids. I guess I don't see a lot of young, healthy adults with ass problems. But look, I have had my own, like I had in 2018, I think it was, I had like a perirectal abscess, which is just what our system failure listeners are dying to hear about as they fire up their podcast today. But like I remember running the Beach to Beacon 10K road race. I went to the hospital beforehand and I was like, my butt hurts. Is this gonna is it bad for me to run this road race? And the woman, I remember I had to drop my pants. The woman looked at my butt. She's like, well, you do have a perirectal abscess. It's like mostly healed now. If it was in a prior state, I might have drained it, but we're not going to drain it. And there's no reason you can't run the road. It may not be comfortable, but you can run the road. It's not going to hurt it. So I ran the road race. But like,
how was your butt afterwards?
Well, it was. It was a little. It was a painful run, but once I stopped running, then it felt good. It was kind of just the running was not the back and forth running motion in your butt cheeks are kind of like two. They're kind of like two melons in a bag, and they kind of rub up against each other, and that fit did not feel great. But after I stopped running, it was fine.
So every step though for a whole 10K though, you're like
yeah. And for like a week, every time I sat down, you would like sit on one butt cheek, and it would start to throb, and you turn to sit on the other one, and you're like and just if your job is to work on a computer. It just really makes, usually the benefit of working at a computer is that you have air conditioning, you're not filthy, you just close your laptop lid and go home, there's no cleanup or anything like that. But when your poor rectum, is on the twitch, it's just the worst. You're just like, ow, every second is misery and there's nothing to be done. I still have to work.
I don't think the food has ever been great in my lifetime. I remember eating a lot of like Hamburg Helper when I was a kid, which like cannot be good for you. But like I guess at least there's like some meat in there, and as long as the meat is good, you're probably doing okay. But I think that the three of us witnessed this transition in real time, gentlemen, at Hebron Academy. When we first showed up there was like an entire staff working in the kitchen, like making everyone lunch and breakfast and dinner. And by the time we left, there was like a Cisco truck that backed the fuck up. Prison food, right? That's where they started.
It was the Sodexo food service.
Sodexo,
I remember
thank you, not Cisco.
Sodexo, Cisco does the restaurants.
That's right.
Sodexo does. They are the prison contractors. It is funny you should bring that up. I was literally explaining this to our dad on the ride home from the Bruins game last night. I was explaining.
Now they back up everywhere. Every place has one of those trucks backing up, including my kids' like school. It's like everywhere. Yeah.
I was explaining to my dad that his annual tuition of $15K per child was going to, but like at first they had, remember that woman would make it was like the Subway. You would go and you'd be like, oh yeah, I'll have a tuna with lettuce, tomato, blah, blah, and she would make it, and then it was like the Subway. It was like service,
Yeah.
By the time that we left, it really was like they were just like ladling slop out, ladling gruel out on the metal spoon. They tap it on your tray to get all the slop off of it. You're like,
You were there longer than us, Brian. What's your take on that? Did it get worse after we left, or did it like plateau out?
Well, I think it was Sodexo, the whole time I was there.
Yeah.
And then, one thing I remember is that I think when I was like a junior or so, they downgraded the quality of sausage patty at the breakfast sandwich in the student union.
Ooh.
And it was just never really quite the same after that. They did make banging breakfast sandwiches over there, but
they did, yeah.
The lower
some
quality
dog meat in there after.
Yeah, it was less good. But broadly speaking, Well, I mean, I don't think in the 90s people really understood about like hamburger helper, like not actually being like especially good for you is the thing. So, I mean, one thing is people have gotten a lot smarter, or at least the information's like out there if you wish to pursue it, while the quality of food has also like gotten substantially worse. And,
That's a good point.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
It is like the bread that you would, when we were kids, there was actual like bread for sale. But now what's
Yeah.
for sale is like heavily preservative, shelf-stable product. It's just not bread, though.
Doesn't even
And
like classify as bread in the European Union.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
like too much sugar in it and stuff.
And that's the really telling thing. You're right to bring up Europe. When you go over to Europe, the food looks similar,
Yeah.
but it feels nutritional, and like the weight falls off your body. Like that's what every time Tracy and I go to Europe, Tracy, my lovely fiance, every time we set foot on European soil, we eat
Yeah.
their food, and after a couple of weeks, like the weight just falls off of us, and we're like, oh, now maybe because
Well, you
we're
get full
walking
a lot
more.
quicker, right? Because there's
That's
like
it.
actual nutrients in the food. So your body's like, oh, I'm full. I have enough now.
Yeah, I remember on Crete, I would eat half a Horia tiki salad and a little pita bread. What do they call those pita breads over there? I forgot the name. With some tzatziki sauce on it.
Oh, man, that is so good, yeah.
And I was like, I guess I'm full after half a salad and a crust of bread. I don't
What's
really,
going
that
on?
doesn't seem right. Usually I eat like 9 salads,
Yeah.
But, it's amazing. You actually feel like full and sated. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. You're like confused as an American. You're not sure how to feel about this. It's wild stuff. But man, it just feels like, it just feels like it's like every, just the nature of the capitalist business structure is such that your deal with, a capitalist business must get worse over time because like their board of directors, it's not enough that they should make tons of money last year. They got to make more money next year than they made this past year. One of the horrors of public ownership, right? And that means that whatever deal you got going with some capitalist entity they're under severe pressure to give you less and take more of your money in any way that they can. And if they fail to do that, their board of directors will can the CEO and bring in someone else who is willing to, really roll up the sleeves and take the gloves off and give you what fur and take all of your money. It's like dealing with, it's like the internet service providers. They only get worse and more expensive. It seems like. I guess the speeds do improve over time, but it's like our private school was taken over by private capital in like 2000.
We saw that real time too.
Yeah, we saw it happening in like 2000. And at the time, I didn't recognize the significance, but like they fired the Dr. Davidson, who was the headmaster, a man who was. I remember Gillies, our English teacher, was explaining about how he'd got in the car with Davidson, the headmaster. Between them, they could recall each and every line to Hamlet's famous. I have what is it? Whether it is nobler in the mind to bear the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or by taking up a sea of arms to an opposing end them. I butchered it. But you know the quote, to be or not to be. That is the question. There was like a general regard for education, not as job training or as a way to make money, right, but as like a way to improve your mind and your person and your spirit, who you are. Like the transcendental enlightenment ideal of education. The last flickering glimpses were still alive at Hebron Academy in like 1998.
We saw the end of it.
I remember Paul Deming, the interim headmaster that the board brought in. He reminds me of the man with the straw hat and the spinning bow tie who sold the citizens of Springfield the monorail.
Oh,
and the monorail
for you, yeah.
He has a whole song and dance number. And like this small town of Springfield, and the Simpsons purchases a ridiculous monorail, which they did not need, off the sleazy salesman. And that's just who came to Hebron Academy to fire all the tenured professors and bring in a crop of 21 and 22-year-old fresh-faced college grads who would accept very low salaries to be a professor. And then, of course, a couple 3 years ago, Hebron had to fire one of their professors who was in a sexual relationship with the students. Unfortunately, it's like, well, get what you pay for. The sinister, the sinister encroachment of the dark forces of capitalism spreading across the map. In the old history movies, like Hitler's Nazi Germany would expand with like a blood red lines on the map, moving through like Poland and France. You know, and that's just how I felt. It would like the blood red line reached the institution of education where we matriculated from for high school and took it over and turned it evil.
They came for our food, and then they came for our movies and our politicians and our culture and, our airport security also.
And now they're on the NFL selling us butt drugs.
And now they're coming for our health,
I like everyone I know has terrible butt issues, and most folks don't love to talk about it. It's not a thrilling, conversation piece. But like everyone's kind of like keeping it to themselves. But I think
the incidence rate, I think, of 30-year-olds, especially males with colon cancer, is definitely like skyrocketing.
30 years old, man. Yeah. Cancer in your 20s and 30s, dude. That is a big red flag right there, man.
Well, maybe in addition to the system failure balm, we can have like our own proprietary diaper brand. Maybe we get some hot broads to like model them or something.
Oh yeah, that fits a fetish niche. That seems like definitely an advertising campaign, especially in Germany. I feel like you'd be very successful into Vaterland.
Yeah.
Those some nice diaper commercials and some hot broads.
Well, how much would people be willing to pay? I mean, yeah, you could have your regular diaper delivery, but then you could also get a full service diaper delivery. You can, wear a bonnet and shake a rattle. And
Brian, your like abilities as an entrepreneur are really shining through on this podcast. Yeah. This is hilarious.
Well, you just got to satisfy a need.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's turn away from butthole talk for just a few minutes, if we possibly can. And I just wanted to bring up the fact that this crazy Portuguese dude who like shot up 2 students at Brown University down in Rhode Island on Sunday night last week. And then apparently drove up to MIT and shot down a MIT professor who was also Portuguese, who was this kid. This guy was like a physics student back then.
He was working on fusion.
Was it fusion?
I could be wrong, but
maybe he was like a physics Olympiad. Like he was like he was like one of these top tier physics guys. I heard he was working on like quantum mechanics or something.
I could be wrong. I thought it was maybe
it is fusion
or something like that related to containment. But
there's news that the Donald this week is adding to his already burgeoning business empire by investing in some kind of a fusion company. Could be a wire cross there, or maybe this man really was working on fusion. Whatever the case may be, he was described as like curmudgeonly, standoffish, like kind of an obnoxious person. Anyway, he was a Portuguese kid, a physics whiz, and one of his rival students at whatever the Portuguese university they all went to was this MIT guy. So this dude showed up at Brown University, a university he enrolled in and then eventually withdrew from, as a Portuguese national who he hated Brown University, complained about the poor quality food, in Rhode Island. It was one of the anecdotes I read about him. Anyway, he shows up to the Brown campus on Sunday and shoots down 2 people, I guess. Not really sure why he would do that. But then the man was living in Miami. He swapped out the Florida plates on his rented Nissan with some I don't know where he got main plates from, but he slapped main plates on his car and drove up to MIT, where he then executed his rival, now an MIT professor. Just went to his home and shot him down in cold blood down in Brookline. And then he hopped in his main-plated Nissan and drove up to his storage unit in New Hampshire, where he entered the storage unit and took his own life with a gunshot wound to the head. What a bizarre story that is, man. I don't know if you can really read any greater societal trends into this unfortunate affair, but man, it's weird that it's so close to home. Down in Salem, New Hampshire is where they found the man's body, I think 2 days ago now. So yeah, man, society really seems like it's coming unglued. Like cantankerous and disagreeable people have always existed, but they haven't always taken up arms in these weird killings. Like we're seeing like virtually every day now. It really goes to show how America is lapsing back into the Wild West, where you almost have to have one of Samuel Colt's peacemakers on your belts at all times. I'm thinking about maybe practicing my quick draw, like the Old West style. There was a down in Massachusetts. There was a stand your ground gun law reform that passed this past week, or maybe the week before last, but where basically if you are defending yourself legitimately and one of your stray bullets should hit an innocent bystander and kill them, you can be found not liable. I don't know. Chris, you're a gun owner. What do you think about such things? I kind of feel like people should be responsible for their bullets even once they exit the person you're intending to shoot. You cannot be shooting. You've got to be hyper aware of your surroundings. I'm not sure I love that. But on the other hand, I could see how it could happen to someone who was under duress and being attacked and whatnot. I don't know. That's a weird one.
Yeah, it kind of goes against everything I was taught about firearms and firearm safety, to be honest with you. So yeah, that kind of immediately gets a reaction from me. I understand that something might happen in the moment there, but you're still... What you don't want is to something happen in a movie theater and have a bunch of people pull their guns and just start shooting, right? You're just going to make the situation so much worse.
True, yeah. So
it's just I think in my mind, I don't really conceal carry these days because I have a young daughter, but I used to, and it's what that is like a knife or something like that, or a sword. It's to get you to the freaking exit, and that's basically it. I mean, there's really no other use for it beyond that. You're not going to be a freaking hero with a pistol. And you're not going to help by just joining the fray.
So anyways, I started blasting. Isn't that what Danny DeVito says in Always Sunny?
That's great. Yeah, that's a great bit. And yeah, he just pulls out 2 guns on live TV. It's that's I think that there's a happy middle ground there. I to your point about what happened with that gentleman. Kind of, to me, I'm not sure if anything elsewise happened there, but it sounds kind of like it could have been schizophrenia or something similar, someone who, snaps, has a mental break.
Speaking now of the Portuguese man who did the
but
shootings.
also what happened to, Mr. Reiner there and his poor wife, what their son did to them. That sounds like a mental break too. And I know someone who is in a similar situation, and I can see how that would happen, but it always brings to mind the point that Mr. Dan Carlin made about Revenge of the Gangrenous Finger. You can ignore the marginalized in society as long as you can, but that doesn't make them go away. And eventually, the weakest people in society start snapping. And I think that's kind of the stage we're at now. I couldn't put the MIT in Brown shoes. I can't, exactly deliver them. I can't put them right on the doorstep of capitalism like I can with the unfortunate food service at our private school. But it does seem, just tangentially related in the sense that, like just the temperature's being turned up ever so slowly on the pot, and the frog is boiling more and more and more. People are getting, I forget the homelessness numbers that I just read, but they were horrifying. The number of people that were getting kicked out of their homes is like going up. Obviously, you drive down the street, and there's a lot more homeless people on the street than there was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago. So we're clearly heading in the wrong direction here. And I think it's all kind of wrapped up in the same shitty package, unfortunately.
Yeah. If I may just indulge in a brief moment of commemoration, or what do you call it when someone's passed? Memorialization of Rob Reiner.
Eulogy?
Eulogizing. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Eulogizing. That is the precise word I'm reaching for. And obviously, we all loved Rob Reiner and his classic All in the Family role as the meathead. But my favorite role of his of all time is 2013 Wolf of Wall Street. There's a particular there's an accounting
Go
term.
figure, yeah.
Travel and entertainment, T&E, right? It's like an expense line, for travel. It's like a kind of expense.
It's an expense line at our company, yeah.
And there's a certain scene where Rob Reiner, he plays Jordan Belfort's dad, Leonardo DiCaprio's dad, in The Wolf of Wall Street, and he's working for DiCaprio's firm there, and he kicks the door open to the meeting between DiCaprio and his band of merry pirates, and he's livid because of the expense reports, because they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on strippers and prostitutes. And he's talking about, and Jonah Hill is like saying that these are T and A expenses, right? So there's T and E, travel and entertainment, and then there's T and A, tits and ass.
Yeah.
And Rob Reiner's like, you said T and A. I heard you. I know you said T and A.
Yeah.
Anyway, man was great in The Wolf of Wall Street. It's just horrific to be stabbed to death alongside your wife by your own child who you spent your whole life trying to help. That is like
that's a pretty horrifying experience.
That's as bad as it gets, man.
Yeah,
That's about the bottom of the barrel right there. That is some serious evil. I just can't imagine what could have possibly gone wrong. But pour one out for our man Rob Reiner and his poor wife. That is just the worst story I've heard in a long time.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I propose we take the shortest of breaks. Then we come right back and get into the second half of the show where we have way too much to discuss. We're definitely going to have to. We're never going to get through it all. We'll be right back. And we're back. All right, lads. Well, also in the news this week, it would seem that the Donald administration has at long last reclassified marijuana from a Schedule 1 drug that is addictive with no known medical benefits and only addictive downsides, and has now been reclassified to Schedule 3, meaning that it can be researched at the, like federal funds can go to research this drug now, and maybe we'll admit that it may have some benefits, alongside its liabilities.
No longer in the same league as heroin and LSD.
Yeah, yes. I think LSD is Schedule 2, I think.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
So it was like more heavily.
Psilocybin is, at least. I'm not so sure about LSD.
Maybe LSD is one, but yeah, ridiculous. Anyway. Yeah, this is all from the 1972 or whatever, 1970. When was the year that Nixon passed all the drugs? I think it was the 1972. Drug laws got passed, and just so one thing this does is it allows the weed dispensaries, which are fully 50 or 60% of the businesses up here in Maine at this point.
Yeah.
It allows the weed dispensaries to write off their expenses. Now, obviously, if you have like $1 million in revenue, but you have $900,000 in expenses, you've made a $100K profit. But if you can't write off those $900K in expenses, then you're showing like the full thing is profit. You have to pay massive taxes on it. So like being taxed by the feds, like the feds want your money, they don't want you. They're not going to allow you to deduct any expenses. So they want all the upside, but none of the. They want you to experience all the downside, but none of the upside. And they want to experience all the upside, but on the downside of these quasi legal businesses. But I don't know. It does seem like obviously societal attitudes all shifted around marijuana 15 years ago, and now the federal government is belatedly shoring up. They should be embarrassed. But I don't know. Is there an argument to be made that? I hear, like, Brian, you and I went to see our comedian friend Robbie the Fire Bernstein in New Hampshire a 3 months ago, and there was someone there at a libertarian, like, as like an avowed socialist, communist, what have you. It's a little bit uncomfortable for Brian and me to be hanging out with libertarians, but we love they're great people. I may not agree with I may think that their economic ideas are a little bit quaint, but they have the right answers on like going to foreign wars and the evils of central banking and what. So I can easily agree with libertarians on virtually anything. And so she was making the pitch that marijuana is a terrible. She was saying this as she was sipping off a highball. Yeah, I was
going to say, what are her thoughts on alcohol?
Yeah, I mean it's like. And I think Brian confronted her with a bet. Are you advocating putting people in cages or not advocating putting people in cages? Because you're advocating for prohibition, and prohibition it doesn't stop people from doing the drug. It just puts people in cages. Is there any argument to be made here for keeping marijuana like illegal? I will just say this: it's much more fun to smoke a cheeky little blunt when it's illegal, and you feel like you're hoisting the black flag. So I'm a little bit sad about that. But what do you guys think?
Well, I think there's a question of like a utilitarian argument where maybe if drugs are legalized, it's like a net good for society. So even though that putting people in cages for doing drugs is like completely crazy, like you could possibly argue that it's like a net benefit to society, I guess, is one way to look at it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of like it should be like in Singapore where it's like a public caning instead of going to prison, and maybe that'd be a more reasonable response. And maybe we could get like some hot chicks wearing latex to administer the canings, and then it would be like a win-win for everyone.
Well, Brian, I noticed your mind is definitely on hot chicks this morning. I can definitely tell it's on top of your mind, and I applaud your idea about hot chicks, wearing latex. We gotta make that so. Well, Brian, you're a man who has sworn off marijuana in all its forms and will never touch it. And Stuart, you're a man who has done the exact opposite. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear. Do you have a different opinion than Brian on this front? What do you think? Is it only? I mean, I just can't really. I do think it's like the danger of marijuana is that it makes you happy, and if you have spent all day doing nothing but sitting on the couch, then it is really bad to be happy after that, and that will lead to negative patterns of behavior. But I think that's the worst of marijuana. I don't know. Agree or disagree? What do you guys think?
I guess I leave it up to each individual to choose how they want to enrich or destroy their own lives, I guess, is what I would say.
Saying each person should be the steward of their own consciousness?
Yeah.
Wow, what is a shocking, what a concept that is, huh? Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of like legalized gambling where, I don't know, it does seem crazy for betting on sports to be illegal, or I was definitely doing it before the DraftKings apps were available, some offshore betting. You kind of just end up doing that if you want to liven up your football watching experience. So it kind of seems crazy that it's not available, but on the other hand, it seems like that sports gambling is basically a plague on society. And it seems much less ambiguous that if we just ban sports gambling, the utilitarian, impact would be, a net benefit.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I was sitting next to two 24-year-old chicks last night at the Bruins game, and I saw that the chick that, just the one that was right next to me, I could just see that she was on that DraftKings app on her phone the whole game long. I couldn't really see what she was betting on or anything, but I was like, dang, they got 24-year-old girls on DraftKings. I thought the women I know could care less if the Bruins triumph, prevail, or are defeated in the shootout. But dang, dude.
To me, it's the same as like someone buying a scratch ticket in like the line at the grocery store or at the gas station before you. It's like it's no different to me, right? Than state-sponsored lottery, which has existed since before we were kids.
Well, I don't know how great that is either, I guess.
Well, I'm not saying it's great. I'm not trying to make that argument. I just as a hypocrite, as an avowed hypocrite, the hypocrisy of the situation kind of bothers me, I suppose. You say no alcohol for 15, 20 years there, however long Prohibition went on in the early 1900s, and we agreed that as a society that didn't work. And so we moved on from that. and I mean the amount of alcohol that we abuse is unreal. I mean, I saw someone that I had seen in quite a while that I used to be on the fire department with, and he was like, he spent a lot of his lifetime in bars, like a lot of firefighters and paramedics do, for a lot of reasons. And he was kind of going off on alcohol when I was sitting there talking to him.
Meaning speaking ill of it?
Against of it. Yeah, he was like, never ever drink and stuff like that. And I found out later that he was recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And that's probably why he was going off on drinking of the booze there. Because I don't know. There's something about alcohol where it takes a little more from you than other things. But I mean, the biggest addiction that society has is sugar, and like 90% of us are addicted to that shit or more. So until I see like pharmaceuticals being tapered back and sugar being tapered back and fried food being tapered back, I can't take it seriously, I guess. Although there are a lot of weed stores in this state now, it's pretty obscene.
Yeah, I'm in the similar mind. Like, I do agree. I can't see putting people. I guess I have to agree with Brian's original point. Putting people in cages, though, that's really not the solution ever for anything.
That's the only way to enforce it, right? You can prohibit anything you want, but how do you actually enforce that? I guess you could, instead of putting people in cages, put them in rehab centers, but we don't really have a society that's built for that right now, right? Necessarily.
Well, I guess I applaud the rescheduling of marijuana. I mean, it seems silly to have it as Schedule 1, but I do not love the fact that every store is a weed store. That's not a great, doesn't give you a great feeling rolling down the street and be like, okay, something is clearly wrong with society. I hate to reference The Simpsons again, but you may remember there's an old Simpsons episode where the grandfather's remembering how Springfield was in like the 20s and 30s, and they go back to some sepia-toned old black and white footage where the roads are literally paved with gold and the cars are skidding because of it. Then it smash cuts to today, and it's like all the windows are boarded up, and it's like porno theaters, and like prostitutes, police sirens. Feels like that's happening to our fair city of Portland.
Like Portland? Yeah. I was just gonna say.
Does seem like it does seem disconcertingly, it seems like our trajectory is disconcertingly on the decline. Not what you want. It doesn't give you a great feeling. That is for sure.
I used to live in Portland and North Deering for a while with these gentlemen back in, what was that, probably the mid to early teens?
Got to be a 2011 to 2013. We lived there.
And it's, not that it was perfect back then, but man, as a person who lives in New Gloucester now and drives into the city only occasionally, it's definitely a bit of an eyebrow raiser every time I come into the city. As they're sweeping off these syringes off the front steps of the store that you're stepping over. Like we were saying, glad there's a city worker that does that. But man, there is just something rotten with society that seemingly cities are having to deal with before rural people are having to deal with.
If a pleasant drive through the countryside in your 5-liter V8 Mustang with a convertible top down is good for your mental health, right? Seeing syringes and people, passed out or in the throes of a fentanyl high on the street, and seeing the stores all, closing and boarding up, and seeing prices. I mean, it just really, if a pleasant drive in a convertible through the countryside is good for your mental health, I mean, this is all the constant reinforcement of being constantly confronted with society's problems.
Yeah,
we've got to be bad for your mental health, right? Was it that Jim Carrey says in Liar, Liar, I just want to get from my car to the office without being confronted by the decay of Western society. And it's kind of like that, It's like it's just a constant reminder that things are not as good as they were yesterday, and things yesterday are not as good as they were the day before. Yeah.
Well, it was funnier when such decay was really on the fringes of society, as opposed to being crammed down your throat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so just moving on away from the weed topic. The deadline was Friday for the Justice Department to release the storied Epstein files, and we were all shocked to find out that, turns out the Justice Department has not had time to heavily redact all the files, so they're just going to give us a little slow trickle here and there. Pages and pages where 99% of the text is blacked out. Only thing we got were a few interesting photos of Slick Willie Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein that we hadn't seen before. And of course, the Donald administration is going to release the Clinton pictures, but not the pictures of him with the Donald. Corey, they're trying to
And the Prince. They released the ones with the Prince.
Oh, was there new ones with Prince Andrew?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So he's not a prince anymore. He's just a civilian.
Yeah,
he got stripped of his title for banging underage chicks. I mean, unreal.
But no surprise there.
Yeah,
big nothing burger.
They really, this Epstein story will not go away. The thing just has legs, and it's going to have even more legs now that the Justice Department is slow rolling the release of the files they're legally obligated to release to the public. It really is an incredible story. It's like a penetrating insight into the way that the structures of power actually work, versus the funny story we get on the news. Right? There's like the portrayal on the media, and then the reality.
Well, yeah, like actions speak a little louder than words, so you need to ignore what people say and watch what they do. And they are definitely reacting. Pretty much everyone in power that I can see, or most people in power, are reacting exactly how I would expect them to react if they were fucking guilty.
Yeah. And go ahead, Brian.
Well, it'll just be interesting to see how the political parties try to court Epstein truthers going into 2028, I guess, the next presidential election. Because I just don't know what either side's going to do. I mean, obviously the Democrats had their chance. I mean, the Democrats have been attacked for covering up the information, but now they're sort of pushing for it. Yeah. But they'll have to walk that back somehow.
Right. Yeah. Whenever they get back into power, they're going to have to try to toss that hot potato onto somebody else.
I mean, I think they have to hope the issue just goes away, but nobody is willing to just let the issue go. So, that'll be interesting, huh?
Yeah, man. Well, I still feel like this Epstein story is the ticking time bomb that could bring down the entire ruling elite. It's one of these historical scandals, like maybe the sale of indulgences, about which I wrote this week's Substack essay during the Middle Ages, right? The fact that the church was like, no, I guess you can just cut us a little check, and that'll get you out of purgatory. We've got an inside track with God, so you just pay us, and we'll take care of your afterlife for you, right? That's that became a huge complaint of the mad monk of Wittenberg himself, old Martin Luther, who wrote down his complaints, his 95 theses, and nailed the resulting document to the door of his local church up there in Wittenberg, Germany, and touched off a firestorm that we still haven't quite outlived to this day. Feel like the Epstein story has it's like of that magnitude. It really shows that there are structures of power over and above our nominal heads of state. I always like to put it like that. Like we're electing the Donald. We think that that gives the plebes, us, the illusion of choice, but really the Donald is being managed in just the way that the Pope would manage the crowned heads of Christendom during the Middle Ages. We now have this weird nexus of finance and science that is pulling the strings above the people that we think of as our heads of state. Yeah. So it's like there's the Westphalian nation state as invented in 1649, where every single square inch of the earth is someone's country, except for Antarctica. And we established international borders across which the Pope is not supposed to spread his nefarious influence. Right? That's the point of the resolution of the entire Protestant Reformation, the 30 Years' War. And I just think that fantasy, that illusion, that fiction of the nation state is slipping away as history moves on. I always think about Balaji Srinivasan's idea of the digital state, where you don't really need to be physically in proximity to the people in your country anymore, because we can be digitally with people online. You could have different kinds of tax regimes competing and not dominating any physical space necessarily, but you can sign up to be a citizen of whatever country makes the most sense to you ideologically, and then you could manage your finances according to your particular economic ideology, and you wouldn't really need to be physically your neighbors could belong to a different digital country than you do. So just an idea to show that the concept of the Westphalian nation state with concrete borders is kind of passing into history, and I think the Jeffrey Epstein thing is our clearest indicator that something is pulling the strings. It's like there's the Prime Minister of Israel, the President of the United States, and then there's someone that's making them both work together. Like, we have to support Israel unconditionally in whatever they do. And I think these are the banking houses that arose in the direct aftermath of the Treaty of Westphalia in 1649. It was just 40 years later, in 1692, you had the world's very first central bank, the Bank of England, pop up into existence, So anyway, long story short, I really think that this Epstein story has a lot of legs, and we have not heard the end from the fiendish Jeffrey Epstein and his coterie of underage, harlots that he would rent out to the powerful. Okay, so I guess maybe the biggest political story this week has got to be this business where Candace Owens, the podcaster, the gigantic podcaster who's pulling in unheard of numbers on the podcast and YouTube circuits, met with Erika Kirk, the wife of the late Charlie Kirk, who ran the old Turning Points USA organization that funneled college-aged kids into Republican politics. And I guess Erika Kirk is not pleased that Candace has been spreading conspiracy theories to the effect that the Israeli government was involved in the assassination of Mr. Kirk, because Charlie Kirk was starting to push back on his donors. A lot of money came from Israel, the Israel lobby, to Turning Point USA to get people to go Republican. And the messages emerged in the aftermath of his death where he was saying to those people, you got to help me here. You cannot be doing a genocide on everyone's TikTok app in 4K. All these college kids can see the genocide happening. I cannot deliver to you, young people, you, the Republican Party. I cannot deliver these kids to you if you insist on supporting this crazy genocide that everyone can see. It's not like you can't sweep it under the rug in the age of TikTok. That's why, the ownership of TikTok is such a big deal. And I haven't seen a shred of evidence to support this conclusion, but Candace Owens is really convincing. She's very articulate, extremely smart, very attractive. She presents very well. So I don't know. I wonder what will come of this meeting. I wonder. There was supposedly a meeting in Long Island where Kirk's donors invited him there, and then had like a quote unquote come to Jesus moment where they were trying to get him to get on board with the Israeli cause unconditionally. And he's just saying, "Well, look, guys, you can only do so much." So anyway.
Well, I would say what Candace Owens is effective at is like punching holes like in what the narrative is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But in terms of like offering like a real explanation as to like how like an alternative hypothesis, she doesn't really do. And so I don't know if she's ever like said that like Israel shot Charlie Kirk, but mostly it's about poking holes in the establishment narrative and questioning the people at Turning Point.
And the FBI, who admittedly botched the investigation to a hilarious degree, because those guys are bunglers. So that doesn't help the conspiracy theories when the FBI is all over the map and can't figure out what they're doing.
Well, it seems like public sentiment. The thing that's happened since this meeting with Erika Kirk and Candace Owens is that like the public sentiment, towards Erika Kirk is like turning. And because she was making these statements that like she like didn't date and like didn't drink and whatnot before getting married to Charlie Kirk.
Huh.
And then they've like found like, I don't know, these Instagram pictures of her like at least like posing with drinks that look like they're alcohol, and there's talk of her dating. And I guess her former dating person is like a writer over at the Daily Wire and whatnot. And then James Lee, well, the thing he was reporting on is that I guess Erika Kirk, she's got like a cousin who's Jewish, and I guess has the last name Rothstein, and like the Rothstein is like who set up like the 1919 World Series or whatever with the Black Sox there or whatever.
Yeah,
and,
the Jewish mafia. Yeah, the Black Sox can't. Wow, this is interesting, man.
And so I don't know. Like, I think it's based on what I was seeing in the James Lee. It seems like it's just the name Rothstein, and they can't like prove the connection to these people. But I guess there are some Rothsteins that are engaged in these dubious business dealings. And then James Lee was like raising the question that because I guess Charlie Kirk was looking into the financials, and this is one of the things that Candace Owens has talked about on her show about like what's going on with the actual financials and all the donations coming in. And I guess it seems like a lot of the money was being funneled towards like pro-Israel causes, are basically sending money off to Israel. And so, which I guess isn't very surprising, given like obviously there's a lot of just like pro-Zionist people within the movement. And so I don't know if that like really got like Charlie Kirk killed or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if maybe like that's what the truth is or something. But anyway, it seems like a lot of like Erika Kirk's sure getting a lot of attention now.
Candace, she is very convincing. Like she has the thing where she claims that Brigitte Macron, the wife of the French president Emmanuel Macron, is actually a dude.
Yeah.
Now the Macrons have sued her in American courts, so like she seems delighted by the lawsuit. She said, "Great, we're going to go to discovery, and I mean, even if I lose the lawsuit, the discovery is going to tell us everything we need to know." So that's very convincing. But is she just doing that because she knows she'll make a lot more money between now and the potential settlement where it might cost her? She's going to make a lot more money on the podcast circuit, projecting this air of confidence that, and just losing the trial down, or worrying about losing the trial down the road. Not that it's a civil trial, right? So, so I don't know, man. It's really tough.
Well, like with the Macron thing, it's just crazy that whatever the case is his wife there was 25 years older in a school at his like school or whatever, and I just don't think you can really go wrong like undercutting like selling like faith in the establishment, and so if you go after these people, only. You're gonna put the light on cockroaches one way or another. Basically, I think is what'll happen. And so, I would think that if they were to prevail in their lawsuit, it would be big enough. It would be like one of these Alex Jones style settlements for like hundreds of billions of dollars or some ungodly
ruinous
amount.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I just don't think you can go wrong at like betting against the establishment when in a matter of truth seeking.
Perhaps. At Emmanuel Macron's private school, they replaced the headmaster and brought in a bunch of, inexperienced professors who will bang their students to save money. And maybe that's what happened with Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron. That feels like what could have happened. Brian, I'll echo your sentiments. And I will on the other side. We've got our Candace Owens on one side of the aisle, and you're like, I got no idea what to make of this person. On the other side of the aisle, you have the exalted offices of the BBC, the head of the BBC had to resign 2 weeks ago because they produced a video trying to make it seem like the Donald was inciting violence on January 7th, and to do that they spliced together different pieces of dialogue. They're like 45 minutes apart to try to build up the case to make the Donald seem like he's inciting an insurrection here. And it's like, well, that is obviously manipulative journalism, and it's been a huge scandal across the pond in the UK. And I think it is representative of the mainstream media at large. So we're kind of caught between, on the one, it's like that Ace Ventura when he's got a spear in both thighs. He's like, he indicates one thigh, he indicates the other thigh. On the one hand, I've got Candace Owens, who I don't know if we can trust, but she seems really sharp and put together. On the other side, we've got the BBC, who we definitely cannot trust. The mainstream media, who have been, lying us into terror wars and, weapons of mass destruction and covering for the elites at every turn. It's just been, no one trusts the mainstream media anymore for good reason. That's why we're glad to have breaking points, like right there in the middle. It's not crazy conspiracy, and neither is it the untrustworthy mainstream media.
I just don't trust either one of them. Ignore them both.
Maybe that's the play.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing about Candace Owens that it drives me crazy is like every day she's like, she's gonna have like some bombshell revelation, and really the story mostly goes nowhere. So I think it's best to not watch her show. And just kind of vicariously, watch the results. I don't know, like watch James Lee, I guess is what I'd recommend.
I've never seen Candace's show, but I will say that I hope, I don't believe she will be, but I hope that she is like vindicated. I hope it comes out that Brigitte Macron is transgendered, and that there's a massive conspiracy behind Turning Point USA, and that the whole corrupt edifice of our ruling elite comes tumbling down in spectacular fashion. Not sure I'd want to bet my hard-earned money on it, but I do hope for it.
Yeah, I guess these days I feel, I guess I'm going to believe it when I see it kind of mode on most everything. If someone's, it's almost like the afterlife or religion. If someone comes up to me like professing they know the truth of what's going on, well, I start looking at them with one eye raised. It's like, well, what's up with you, dude? What are you trying to sell me? So someone who's peddling some line that hard, I don't know, is trying to sell you something, I think.
Well, we all want the glorious destruction of our civilization, so that like the phoenix, it can be born anew. I mean, especially like going through like the 2011 financial crisis, where we just couldn't let the establishment collapse. We had to.
We need our rebuilding year. We got to get our low draft pick or a high draft pick rather. That's what we need as a society. Come on, guys, let us rebuild here. Come on.
And instead, we've got like a zombie system in place now that's like, it's become abundantly apparent that's the case. And so our desire as like a populace for like rebirth I think is something that can be used against us. And
absolutely,
that's kind of
going to be a lot of charlatans along the way.
Indeed.
Well, alrighty, lads, we've got just a few minutes left, just enough time to shoehorn in one final topic, and regrettably it's about the drums of war and Venezuela And again, the infinite, the infinite corruption of our ruling class. Last night, it seems that the Donald administration or the Pentagon seized another Venezuelan cargo ship. This is, I can't imagine. I mean, this is like, this is a tough one from a perspective of international law. I just can't see how you could possibly justify seizing other countries' assets on the open ocean. Like, isn't that piracy under any definition?
It's got to be a provocation, right?
Yeah.
So they're trying to entice them to react.
Yes, and the inability of Venezuelan ships to chart a course to Cuba is collapsing the Cuban economy. They haven't got any oil. They're dependent on Venezuelan oil. So what this is, I think you're right.
Two birds.
Yeah, it's a provocation, and it's a part of it's like the Cold War never ended for these lunatics.
Yeah.
Like in the Donald's cabinet are zealots like Marco Rubio, who has Cuban ancestry, right? But the people who Fidel Castro kicked out of Cuba were all like the plantation owners, right? So all those people moved to Miami, and the mob too. They kicked out the mob.
Sure.
The people
like the Chinese on Taiwan. They don't exactly like the.
That's it. Yeah.
They're kind of on the opposite side of things.
The mob was big in Havana, obviously, and Fidel Castro kicked them out. They all moved to New Jersey. There's great Cuban restaurants, including one I took you to, Brian, La Casa, there in downtown Newark, off the chain. Man, delicious. But yeah, so the mob the Cuban mafia moved to New York and imported their Bolero lottery, which is a big part of the numbers. It was a big part of the numbers racket for the 5 big Italian crime families in New York back in like the 70s, and then the other ones, the non-mob ones, moved to Miami and harbor hatred towards the Castro regime to this day, and that's where Florida Senator Marco Rubio comes from, and so it's like he and a bunch of other people who are associated with the Cuban expat community really want to bring down the hammer. They want to strike at Fidel Castro and keep the Cold War going and keep us interfering him. I don't know if you all know this, but we got in trouble. The United States got censured by the UN for causing a humanitarian crisis in Cuba by using our blockade to prevent food from getting to the island. And one funny thing about the Cubans is that they have a superior medical system to us, despite all that. They have
Americans fly there for.
Yeah, they have a vaccine for lung cancer. It's unreal. Yeah, unreal. And we don't have that here. It's like, so I don't know. It seems absolutely wild. And I just cannot believe that we're out here, saber rattling for another senseless war. Like, come on, man. Did we not learn our lesson in like Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, right? The list is almost endless at this point. And it's just been a disaster every single... You go all the way back to Vietnam, a disaster every single time.
It depends on who you are, if it's a disaster to you. Iraq was not a disaster for Halliburton, right?
Yeah.
And Dick Cheney, that was not a disaster at all.
Yes.
It was fantastic for them.
And oil figures heavily into this Venezuela thing, let's not forget.
Yeah.
And then there's the weapons manufacturers, your Raytheons, your
our
Lockheeds.
entire economy depends on the machine churning. The missiles have to go somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, so I agree with that. I agree with that, sir. It does seem like we have the military-industrial complex of weapon manufacturers and then the fossil fuel industry, both wanting to get their filthy claws on the Venezuelans and the Cubans. But man, it makes me want to. Do you guys remember in 2020 when Biden was debating Donald Trump and Biden kept saying, "Come on, man! I just want to channel my inner Joe Biden." When the Donald announces another ridiculous, the whole point of the Donald administration was like no more foreign wars, like a big platform plank, right? No more ridiculous. The 2016 election went as well as it did for the Donald in a huge part because Hillary had voted for the war in Iraq, and everyone knew that the war in Iraq was a disaster, and the Donald could go up there and say to the other Republican candidates, and then also to his Democratic rival Hillary Clinton, and he would say things. He would say that he would say to Hillary Clinton, he would say to Jeb Bush, your brother lied us into a terror war. And Jeb Bush just had to stand there and be like, well, kind of did lie us into a terror war. Yeah. And now we're at it again. It's like we've learned nothing. So I just want to echo the immortal words of Joe Biden with respect to Mr. Trump and say, come on, man, can we just go 4 years without a ridiculous foreign entanglement? It's absolutely brutal. So, yeah, man, we got to beat the anti-war drum just like you and I did in 2003, on the eve of the invasion of Iraq, when you and I, Chris, single-handedly took on the entire first floor of the Doolittle Dormitory at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in a rousing debate about the wisdom of the American invasion of Iraq as missiles rained over Baghdad. And we were stuck with all those ROTC kids, so they were all gung ho about it. But we was right.
What the hell, man? The Pentagon hasn't even called us yet. I think we'd be 4 stars by now. What the hell?
All right, lads. Well, I think we have reached the end of the podcast. A good place to leave it for today.
It's been fun.
At this juncture, I always invite our System Failure listeners to pay us a little visit over at systemfailure.org. There, you can sign up to read the scintillating weekly essays written by yours truly. And if you'd like to get in touch with either Brian or myself, why, you can accomplish that tidy feat over on the About page simply by clicking on the appropriate name. Chris, the captain, it has been a pleasure to have you back in studio, sir. Let's not let it be so long before we do it again.
Yeah.
Brian, you and I will be back next week with another exciting, regularly scheduled, and I'll be back on Thursday with this week's essay read.
All right.